We voted. You're not family anymore, my mom said, when I refused to sell my business to save my brother. 2 years later, she showed up to a job interview. I sat on the other side of the table and said, they didn't sit me down. They didn't soften their faces or preface it with anything resembling concern. My mother stood in the middle of the living room like she was holding court. My brother Darren sat slouched on the couch, arms crossed, that look on his face. The one that said he'd messed up again but knew someone else would pay for it. My father lingered in the doorway like a shadow, present but already detached. When Mom spoke, it came sharp and rehearsed, like they'd practiced it. We voted. You're not family anymore. Not we're disappointed. Not let's talk about it. No emotion. No second chance. Just a verdict. I stood there, holding the envelope I'd brought to help cover the mortgage payment again, even though Darren's mess had already drained me twice. But this time I didn't offer it. This time I came to say no. Darren had racked up more gambling debt, something like 60 grand. This time with the kind of people who don't send notices. They send warnings, and now they were asking me to sell the business I'd spent 6 years building from nothing. The same business they'd never asked about unless it was to see how much they could squeeze from it. When I said I wouldn't do it, not couldn't, but wouldn't, my mother's face changed. Her lips curled like I'd spat on the floor. You're letting your brother die, she said. You care more about money than blood. No, I cared about surviving. About not being the automatic ATM every time Darren gambled himself into a corner. I cared about what I'd built when they were too busy cleaning up his chaos to notice I'd gone without help. Nights without sleep. Days without food. Grinding my fingers raw into something real. I walked out that night without another word. They didn't stop me. They didn't call the next day or the next week. Silence filled the cracks where family used to live. They deleted me. Birthdays passed without a call. Christmas came and went with no invitation. I didn't even know my cousin had gotten married until I saw the pictures posted online. My name had vanished from the group chat. Unfriended, erased. Like I'd died and they'd all agreed not to speak of the body. But I didn't fall apart. I didn't wallow. I got up and did what I always did. Worked. My business, a small but growing software development company, was finally gaining traction. We picked up 2 major contracts in 6 months. I hired a team, opened a new office, expanded. I didn't post about it. I didn't try to prove anything. I just kept going. 2 years later, I had a corner office with glass walls and a door with my name on it. Not just my first name, my full name. Because I wanted everyone to know who'd built this. No favors, no handouts, just grit. The morning she walked in, I was already in the middle of interviews. We were hiring aggressively, new developers, admin support, HR roles. The line outside the conference room had thinned, and I was reviewing the next file on the stack when I saw it. Eleanor Rhodes. I blinked, froze for a second, but the name didn't lie. And when she stepped in, all thin nerves and hesitant steps, clutching the resume like it could defend her, I saw it was her. My mother. Hair pulled into a tight bun. Makeup understated. Dressed just expensive enough to suggest she was trying to look like she hadn't been trying. She didn't recognize me at first. She looked at the room, then to the person across the table. Me. And she froze. Her face changed in stages. Recognition, disbelief, and then something almost like fear. I didn't smile. Not yet. I leaned forward, tapped the corner of her resume, and said, I didn't realize we were family again, because last time I checked, you voted me out. She opened her mouth, closed it, the same way people do when their story doesn't match the one they're living now. Her voice, when it finally came, was brittle. I didn't know this was your company. That makes sense, I replied. You haven't exactly been keeping tabs. She tried to regain composure, sat straighter. I wasn't expecting, neither was I. And yet, here we are. Her hands were still shaking. I could see it, the way she clutched the edge of the table like she was still holding onto some version of reality where she had the upper hand. But this wasn't her house. This wasn't a family meeting. This was my office. What role are you applying for? I asked, flipping through her resume, though I didn't need to. I just wanted her to hear it, to feel it. Administrative coordinator. I was laid off 6 months ago. Been trying to... 6 months, I repeated. So, this isn't new. She shook her head. No, I've applied to over 30 companies. No one's hiring long-term experience anymore. They all want fresh talent. I've got bills, medical costs, the house. I raised a hand, not rudely, just firmly. Eleanor, I'm not unsympathetic, but you do understand the conflict of interest here. She looked lost. I thought maybe we could talk. I didn't come here for charity. No, I said, but you came here for mercy. That's different. The silence stretched. She couldn't meet my eyes. Maybe because she knew deep down what was coming. Maybe because some part of her had already prepared for this, pride swallowing the apology she hadn't given in 2 years. You didn't just cut me off, I said. You made it official. You looked me in the eye and said I wasn't family anymore. Not in anger, not in grief, in cold consensus. I lost more than your approval that night. I lost every birthday I used to celebrate with you, every Sunday dinner, every piece of connection we had. And now you want to sit across from me and ask for help, without even offering a damn apology. Her mouth twitched. The words didn't come. You see the company now, don't you? You see the name on the door. You see the staff, the office, the success you didn't ask about. And you think maybe I'm in a position to throw you a line. Maybe I've softened. Maybe time fixed it. I stood slowly, walked to the window, let her sit in it for a moment. But I haven't softened. Time didn't fix it. I did. I rebuilt from the inside out. Without your love, without your voice, without your blessing. I did it with silence in my ear and grit in my gut. And I am not handing any of it to the person who decided I was disposable the moment I stopped bleeding for her favorite son. She stood up quietly, as if accepting the sentence before it was fully delivered. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded once. I understand. No, I said, turning back. You don't, but you will. She left without another word, left the resume on the table like a forgotten relic. I didn't watch her walk out the lobby. I didn't need to. The message had been carved deep, not with cruelty but with clarity. Some bonds don't bend. They snap, and when they do, they don't reattach with apologies whispered in desperation. They stay broken. And from those ruins, you build. 3 days passed before I heard from her again, not directly. A voice message showed up on the office landline, one of those generic-sounding, painfully careful attempts at diplomacy. This is Eleanor Rhodes. I came in for an interview earlier this week. I wanted to apologize if anything I said came across the wrong way. I hope we can speak again, privately. No mention of who I was to her. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just the sterile, surface-level script of someone trying to walk backwards through a door they slammed shut. I didn't call her back. I didn't delete the message either. I left it there, sitting in that system like a quiet digital ghost. Then the letters started. First came the envelope, hand-addressed, no return name but familiar handwriting. She had always written like she was in a hurry, every letter slanted forward, words packed tight as if the paper might charge by the inch. Inside, a single page, typed, cold. She wrote about the job market, about downsizing, about ageism, about how hard things had become since my father retired early with health issues, and Darren moved out after getting married to a woman who made it clear she didn't want family drama under her roof. She didn't ask for money, didn't grovel. She just listed facts. Like maybe if she said enough of them I'd feel something. But all I felt was how deliberately she skipped the one truth that mattered, what they did to me. 2 years ago, I was the one standing on their porch with an offer to help, and they shut the door without hesitation. Now she was on the outside, and suddenly we were supposed to be equals again. That wasn't how it worked. I didn't stop being their son. They stopped being my family. I kept working, focused harder. The company was moving into its 3rd year and gaining clients out of state. We had started attracting attention, small mentions in trade publications, interviews requested by podcasts I didn't have time for. The momentum was real now, like a current I didn't dare let up on. I ran the team lean but efficiently, a group of people who didn't care who I used to be or who walked away from me. They just respected what I built. They showed up. They delivered. They believed in the vision because I made sure it delivered results. Then came a message from Darren, not even a call. A text, short, unpunctuated, like everything he'd ever sent. Heard Mom came in. You really that petty? That was all. Not how are you, not can we talk. Just an accusation. As if I owed them some endless tab of forgiveness they could cash in whenever the mood struck. I stared at that message longer than I should have, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I blocked the number. I didn't have time to explain boundaries to someone who never respected them. A week later, we got a contract from a major city infrastructure vendor. Big money, long-term work. The kind of deal that not only secured our future, but let me open a second office. I flew out to finalize the paperwork, signed the agreement with the company's board, and returned with a 3-year projection that had our revenue tripling. We celebrated quietly. My team wasn't the party type. Just a dinner, some clinking glasses, and a silent understanding that this was only the beginning. But success has a way of attracting the past. It was a Wednesday when the call came. Not to me, but to HR. Eleanor again. She was checking in, asking if the position had truly been closed. My HR lead forwarded the message to me, along with a note. She mentioned knowing you personally, thought you should see it. I responded directly. She does not. That was all I wrote. The truth? I couldn't stop thinking about that interview, not because I felt guilt, but because I saw her vulnerable, not weak, just uncertain. And that unsettled me. My mother had always been the immovable object, the one who kept her shoulders square no matter how hard life pushed. Even when she told me I was no longer part of the family, she didn't waver. She made her choice like it was duty. Now she was back, unsure, hoping the cracks could be sealed with time. But time doesn't fix betrayal. It just gives you space to survive it. The next message was different. Personal email this time, not through the company. It read, subject, just once more. I know you don't want to hear from me. I'm not writing to beg. I just want to tell the truth you think I won't say. That night when we voted, you need to know I didn't do it because I hated you. I did it because I thought Darren would die if we didn't act fast. You were the only one with anything worth sacrificing. That's a cruel thing to admit, but it's the truth. You were always the one who held everything together. And that night, I made a choice that broke everything else. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I see it now. What I did, what I cost you. Love, Mom. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't feel something, but because I had nothing left to say to a version of her that only arrived when she had nothing left. Instead, I called a staff meeting. The second office meant we needed someone to lead it, someone with enough grit to manage teams, handle difficult clients, make quick decisions without running to me for backup. I had names in mind, but I needed one more project completed before I chose. The following month passed in relentless motion. Long hours, strategic shifts, expansion logistics. At night, I would walk through the empty halls of the office and remember the nights I used to sleep in my car, using old laptops and borrowed Wi-Fi from a cafe that never changed the password. I built this place with nothing but rejection at my back. And then, without warning, I got an invitation. Not to dinner, not to coffee. To Darren's daughter's birthday party. A pink envelope. A cartoon princess on the front. Inside, a picture of a 2-year-old I had never met. My niece. Her name was Lily. The invitation didn't come from Darren. It came from his wife. The message was handwritten. I know things are bad, but Lily should know you exist. You should have the choice. If you decide not to come, we understand. It was the first time since the break that someone used the word choice and meant it. I didn't RSVP. I didn't ignore it either. That Saturday, I drove to the address on the card. A modest house in a suburb they probably couldn't afford, without help from her parents. Kids ran around in costume. Music played through cheap speakers. I stood across the street for a long time, engine running, trying to imagine what would happen if I walked through the door. Then I turned off the ignition and stepped out. The moment I crossed the street, I saw her, Darren's wife, standing in the front yard. She didn't smile, but she didn't frown either, just nodded once. I reached into my coat pocket, handed her a small box wrapped in neutral paper. No card, no message. For her, I said. Do you want to come in? I looked past her, into a house that no longer held a place for me. I saw my brother through the window, holding his daughter, smiling like a man who believed life had reset. No, I said. Not yet. And I walked back to the car, left the gift, left the noise, drove back to the life I'd built, quiet and whole, untouched by the storm I once begged to be included in. They had voted. They had erased. And now, they were remembering. But I wasn't the same man they exiled. I wasn't waiting to be let back in. I was already home. 6 months after I left the birthday party gift on the lawn without stepping foot inside, I received a letter. This one wasn't folded with caution or worded with distance. It arrived on the kind of thick paper people reserve for formal apologies or legal notices. The envelope bore no return address, but I knew the handwriting. I paused only long enough to boil water for coffee, then read it at my desk before anyone else arrived at the office. The message was simple. I'm selling the house. I've moved into a smaller place. Thought you should know. Dad's in assisted care now. Darren visits when he can. I don't. Mom, nothing emotional. No plea for forgiveness. Just status updates. Cold facts once again, but this time presented like someone clearing their side of the board. Maybe it was her way of confessing she had run out of things to offer or lose. I stared at the letter for a while before sliding it into the drawer where the rest of them sat. Unanswered, unreturned, but kept. Not as trophies, not as wounds, just reminders. That same week, our second office finalized its launch. The team there was strong, ambitious people who wanted leadership, not constant supervision. I flew in, cut the ribbon with the city council, shook hands, gave a short speech that got polite applause, and left quietly. I didn't want the spotlight. I just wanted to know the work would hold without me constantly pushing it forward. Back at headquarters, I made one final personnel decision. A promotion. The employee who had stuck with me from the early grim days when it was just rented space and vending machine lunches became the regional lead. They had earned it without question. I handed them the keys to operations and stepped back from day-to-day control. I didn't leave the company. I just shifted into strategy. Oversight. No longer building brick by brick, but shaping from above. One morning, standing by the office window, I watched the city shift below me. Cars crawling down packed avenues, people rushing between obligations, all part of a machine they didn't control. I had once wanted so badly to be included in a smaller machine, a family system built on tradition and forced allegiance. But I saw it now for what it was, fragile, conditional, quick to eject what didn't follow the script. I hadn't won out of vengeance. I hadn't risen from spite. I rose because I chose not to stay on the floor they left me on. A call came in around noon, unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Minutes later, the transcription popped up. Hey, it's Darren. I know we're not good. I'm not calling to fix everything. I just need to tell you something. Mom's not well. It's serious this time. Early onset Alzheimer's. She's not in good shape. She asks about you. Sometimes she forgets the vote ever happened. Sometimes she thinks you're still around. Thought you'd want to know. Do what you want with that. I won't bother you again. I didn't listen to the recording. The words were enough. I didn't respond immediately. I went back to work, reviewed projections, answered emails, cleared my inbox, had lunch alone at the cafe down the block, signed off on final edits for our newest marketing material. I did everything except decide. But the next morning, I was in the car. I drove to the address Darren had included at the bottom of the voicemail. A care facility tucked behind a pharmacy and 2 chain restaurants, the kind of place people forget exists until they need it. I told the receptionist who I was. They brought me to her room. She sat in a reclining chair by the window. Her hair was thinner, her eyes a little more sunken. But she looked at me the moment I entered and smiled. "You're late," she said. I didn't correct her. I sat down across from her. She looked at my face, studied it, then nodded. "You still wear that look when you're angry. Just like your father." I said nothing. "I saw you on the news," she went on. "Some award, I can't remember what. But you had a suit on. You looked tired." Still, I didn't speak. "I wanted to say something to you that day," she said after a moment, "but I didn't know if I had the right." "You didn't?" She nodded again. I thought that might be the case. We sat in silence, a long one. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" I answered truthfully. "No." She blinked slowly. "I think that's worse." "I don't feel anything," I said. "You're someone I used to know." Her lips parted. Her shoulders sank. It wasn't sorrow exactly, just understanding. "I remember that night," she said. "I remember what I said. I thought if I was firm it would make it easier. For me, for Darren, for everyone. You made it easier to walk away from all of you. I know. She looked at her hands. I won't be here much longer, she said. Even if I stay alive, the parts that know you won't. You could leave now, and I might not remember you were here. I didn't come for you. No? I shook my head. I came to make peace with myself. She closed her eyes, not asleep, just still. I wish I'd known how wrong I was, she whispered. That's the thing, I said. You did know. You just didn't care at the time. I stood. I built something you never bothered to ask about. Now it runs without me needing to babysit it. I lead people who trust me, who see value in what I offer. And none of that came from your approval. You cast me out. And I didn't fade. She opened her eyes. There was no answer on her tongue. No plea. No rebuttal. Just the face of a woman who finally understood what consequences looked like after the damage was done. I left without ceremony. Outside, I looked up at the sky, then at my watch. The day was moving forward, indifferent to memory or regret. That felt right. Back at the office, I held an all-hands meeting. I told the team I'd be stepping further into board-level responsibilities. Day-to-day operations would continue under the current leadership. I had one final project to greenlight before I pulled back fully. A mentorship program for local youth interested in tech entrepreneurship. No speeches, no headlines, just real support for people who needed a door opened. Later that evening, I visited Lily's home. Darren wasn't there. His wife met me at the door. She's in the living room, she said. She knows your name now. I walked in. Lily sat on the carpet, crayon in hand. She looked up at me and said, You're the one from the picture. What picture? I asked. The one Mommy showed me. She said you're my uncle. Are you really? I sat down across from her. I am. She smiled. Want to draw? And so I did. I stayed for an hour, said little, drew badly, laughed once, then left. That night, I lay in bed and realized I didn't need to keep waiting for a family that voted me out, because the moment I stopped chasing them, I found something alive.